Hello and welcome to my channel. Today is the Spooky Tales edition. Okay, I know, I'm overly dramatic. Sorry. Please forgive me. Anyways, today we are going to go over some things that have happened to me that are spooky or ghostly in nature. So my eyes are already primed and ready to go. So here's a short one. It's short. There's not much to say, but when I was, when I was buying my first house, it didn't close on time. I was living in a single wide trailer, and anyways, we'd sold it, and of course things did not close on the house when they were supposed to. So I ended up having to stay at my mom's for a couple of weeks while everything, finished up, because closing on a house is a lot. And so when I was at my mom's house, I woke up one night and my kid was in the room with us, because we're cramped into my mom's house. Anyways, we're sleeping on air mattresses, and my kid is there, and she's sleeping, on her own mattress across from me. At this point, she's I think 3-ish. And I look over, and there is this man with a hat on standing over my child. And I just remember waking up and hey, Amy, hey, do you see this? Do you see that guy? And when she woke up, he had just disappeared. And so of course she didn't see him. Yeah, that was really bizarre. Now, this might not be, true or anything. This man was very tall, wearing a hat, and the type of hat he was wearing was very similar to my partner's grandpa. And so my partner thought or thinks that it was her grandpa looking at our kid. Who knows? Who really knows? I don't know. It was freaky, especially since it was standing over my child. Yeah, no. I did not like that at all. So, speaking of creepy men, we are going to go into my next story. So I worked at a memory care facility, taking care of people with dementia. And I worked the graveyard shift, which is a really hard shift, by the way. But anyways, I was in a cottage alone with 16 residents. We had a med aide that showed up every once in a while to give meds or to potentially help, but let me tell you, good workers was a fucking joke there. Yeah, a lot of times they didn't want to help and didn't help, and yeah. Anyways, so there was a courtyard that connected all the cottages, and it allowed the residents to be able to walk from cottage to cottage and, things like that. There were 5 cottages, and the courtyard had mini golf and benches and, but it was fenced in, so you couldn't leave. Unless you had a key, you couldn't leave the courtyard. You could enter into the other cottages, though. I don't know why I'm telling you this. But multiple nights, there would be this creepy looking shadow man thing looking in the cottages from the courtyard. And he was not alive. He was some kind of ghostly man. I don't know. And he wasn't, I don't know. I wasn't the only person who would see this guy. Like, he was just a known entity that would wander the courtyard and look in the cottages, and it was like a clear door. I don't know. I'm getting goosebumps. Like, legit getting goosebumps. But yeah, like, everybody knew about him. And if you were afloat or a med aid, you had to go out in the courtyard and walk around, and that freaks some people out, like to walk from cottage to cottage. That's what you would do. And yeah, that freaked a lot of people out, honestly. And there were times that I would see, like, past residents. I swear I would see past residents. You know, we lost a lot of people. I mean, it was very common to lose people. We took people in their last parts of their life sometimes, and we had a lot of hospice. And so, yeah, I had a lot of residents die, unfortunately, and or pass away, if that is a better term to use. And I swear that I would see some of them wandering the cottage, and you know, I mean, I could just be tripping. I don't know. And you weren't allowed to really have alarms because that's considered a restraint. But there were some people who were allowed to have alarms because it was approved and that the alarms were safer than not having them, which is just an alarm, like a beeper that would, like a motion sensor, or sometimes it was one that would be like a pad on the bed, but generally we used motion sensors. And they would tell us, you know, if somebody was getting out of bed so we could go assist them to keep them from falling. And there were times that residents would be asleep and the alarm would be going off. And I do know that some of them are kind of connected, and so sometimes, like, I think that those alarms were going off because an alarm in another cottage was, you know, kind of like walkie-talkies or like poor systems. But there were times that, like, an alarm would go off and I would go running towards a room for a high risk, you know, resident, trying to keep them from hurting themselves when they were getting out of bed. And I would see something in their room, and a lot of those times I would just try to, like, you know, blow it off. But I swear I saw past residents quite often, which isn't necessarily, I guess, a bad thing. I don't know. Like, we had a lot of husbands and wives. Well, not a lot, but we had a couple of husbands and wives. And when one of the residents' husband passed away, I swear I saw him in her room a lot, hanging out with her, because sometimes the residents, they don't share a room with their partners, which is not uncommon, because when you have dementia, like, it can be, you might not recognize each other, or they might fight, or you know, so sometimes they have their own room. But I swear he came and saw her every day until she passed away, which was shortly after he did, which is also really common. But I don't know, those are just things. Like, I would go in and he would be sitting in the chair in her room, you know, and I'd like look at him and make eye contact, and we just kind of acknowledged each other, like, and I would do what I, you know, if I needed to change her, or yeah, mostly change her, 'cause since I work knock, a lot of them needed their underwears changed. But yeah, so it was really interesting, really interesting. And some of the, he didn't look like he did when he passed away, like, but I knew it was him, like a healthier him, just hanging out in that room. A lot of people on knock shift talked about things that they saw, and I think it makes sense considering, but I always wondered who that guy in the courtyard was. Like, I don't know. A lot of people said that he was like, they thought he was an old farmer, because we were near, like, the play, you know, where we were was like an old, used to be like an old, like, orchard, which is now not. It's very industrial, or very, I don't know, it's houses and everything now. There's no farmland in that area, but it used to be. But I have no idea. So I do know that this was just kind of a short one today. I don't have a whole lot of time, but I wanted to tell a couple of my shorter stories, and talk about them, because why not? So anyways, I'm gonna do the rest of my face and fix this up a little bit, and I will be right back. This is the finished look. I know that's not exactly what you were here for. You were here for my boring, uneventful, ghostly experiences. But I used the Frozen 2 palette for this eye look. I really do like this palette, and the blue and like deep red purple together is really nice. For my lips, I used a KVD bullet lipstick in Eggplant. I don't know if they still make these. And I feel like some of the formulas in these aren't very good, and some of them are really good. This one's a good one. Yeah, and I just threw on a ColourPop gel cream liner, Piggy Bank. Yeah. My eye is watering. I'm starting to realize that sometimes when I'm telling ghost stories, my eyes start watering, or I'm getting goosebumps. So I think that's an issue for me. But I also notice that sometimes pinks and reds tend to make my eyes water, particularly this side. I have no flipping idea why. It doesn't happen on this side very often. Mostly this side. There's something wrong with this eyeball. Now actually, interesting random fact to end this video, I only have 2 sinuses. On my left side, I have no sinuses. Over here, they're just missing, which I guess is not uncommon, but it's not common. I was just born without them, and they discovered it once when they had to do an x-ray, and there was no sinus holes here, because you could see when you do an x-ray, you can see the, anyways, that's not important and super random. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you made it to the end. I hope you're enjoying this series, and I hope to see you next time, okay?